Week 12 of the fantasy basketball season, and it's a big crucial week here with 5 weeks only left till playoff time in your fantasy leagues. Here's the first forward, though, I will look to drop. The first guy's Kevin Love of the Cleveland Cavaliers. So Kevin Love, it's just been another injury-riddled season for Love, and this year he just couldn't get up early in the season and play, and now he only came back for 12 minutes of play in the last two games, and he went down again with a calf injury. And even with an IL spot, I don't think Kevin Love's even worth a roster spot anymore. Cleveland, they signed him to a huge contract, I believe, last offseason in 2020. And this guy, he's just been injured. He misses months at a time. And now with the latest calf injury, it wouldn't surprise me if he misses 2 or 3 weeks easily, is Kevin Love. And Love, he used to be a monster on the Minnesota Timberwolves. But the last few years, it's just been non-existent for him with his playing time and him even putting up numbers anymore. And with this large contract, the Cleveland Cavaliers, they're stuck with it. I don't see a team really trying to take Kevin Love onto their books unless they're going to get a first-round pick attached to him. So Kevin Love, he's not doing anything. He's always injured. And I just don't want any part of him anymore on my fantasy team, because I believe this guy, he just don't want to play, or his body's that broken down that he just can't play anymore. And he's already been dropped in 8% of fantasy leagues this week. And this week he'll be the first forward I will look to drop. The second forward I look to drop this week's Marvin Bagley of the Sacramento Kings. So Bagley, he went down last night with a fractured hand in that ball game, and he's going to be out at least 4 to 5 weeks, in my opinion, is Bagley. And Bagley, he was starting to get things going and putting up some good numbers for the Sacramento Kings and fantasy owners the last few weeks here on the season. He's ranked 175 in fantasy basketball with 13.9 points a game, 7.4 assists, 1 assist a game, 56% from the foul line, which is horrible, and 50% from the field. But the last few weeks, like I said, he's picked things up with Bagley. 12.6 points a game, 6.2 rebounds, 72% from the line, which is pretty good from the season of where he's having 56, and 55% from the field. So Bagley, his percentages was going up. The scoring and rebounding was pretty much the same, but he looked pretty promising coming out of the All-Star break before breaking the hand yesterday versus the Charlotte Hornets. And now with the timetable most likely being 4 to 6 weeks, that's going to take you to the playoff time in fantasy basketball. And Bagley, he was pretty decent, but I don't even think he's worth an IL spot in fantasy basketball. So he's a guy definitely droppable, and 5% of owners have already dropped him. His owners just went from 78% overnight to 73% in the last few games before he went down. March 11th versus Houston, 11.7 rebounds, 1 assist and 2 blocks. Then March 13th at Atlanta, 12.7 rebounds and an assist. And then last night at the Charlotte Hornets, before he fractured the hand, 12 points, 3 rebounds, and a block. So things were pointing up for Bagley after he struggled for most of the season here. But now with the broken hand, it's safe to drop him in all 10 and 12 team leagues and probably deeper. And the third and final forward I'd look to drop this week is Miles Bridges of the Charlotte Hornets. Bridges, he's been a weird player this season in fantasy basketball. And the Charlotte Hornets, they got a lot of good, talented ball players on their team. So that's why Bridges, he's been inconsistent with his playing time and with his stats. And on the season, he's ranked 123 in fantasy basketball with 9.7 points a game, 5.7 rebounds, 2 assists for him, 1.2 threes a game, a nice 91% from the foul line, and a pretty decent 49% from the field for Bridges. But the last few weeks, he just hasn't gotten things going. Ranked 165 in the time, 6 points a game, 5.7 rebounds, 66% from the foul line, but he is shooting 61% from the field, but he's only attempting 4 shots per game. So Bridges, he's not getting the looks. He's not really getting the playing time as well either, in my opinion, even though he's been playing 25, 30 minutes a game. But it's a lot of empty calories, a lot of empty stats for Bridges, and he's just not producing right now for fantasy owners. And since the All-Star break, March 11th versus Detroit, 6 points, 8 rebounds, and an assist. March 13th versus the Toronto Raptors, 2 points, 6 rebounds, an assist, and a steal. And then last night versus the Sacramento Kings, 10 points, 3 rebounds, and a block. So those numbers, they're nothing special. You can find a lot of ball players putting up similar numbers on the waiver wire. And Bridges, he's been dropped already in 3% of fantasy leagues this week. And I say to drop him in more because he's just not producing. He's been inconsistent, and his numbers are not eye-popping at all. So that's a few forwards I would look to drop here in Week 12 of the fantasy basketball season.